I came across this article that was published on boxingnewsonline.net, and it's titled Anthony Joshua is on dangerous grounds. The lessons of heavyweight history tells Matt Christie that Anthony Joshua has got a mountain to climb in the rematch and Andy Ruiz Jr. And I thought this article was quite interesting, so I'm going to be quoting some of it. Uh, Anthony Joshua's decision to go straight into a rematch with Andy Ruiz Jr. is a brave one, particularly considering the nature of his humbling defeat in their first fight in June. After all, it was not a one-punch knockout that can be written off as a fluke, nor was it a close decision that could have gone either way. There was not a shred of controversy or doubt about Ruiz's superiority at the fight's end. It was a punishing 7th-round beatdown that dug up all the previous undefeated superstars' shortcomings and showcased them to the world. In that regard, and irrespective of numerous conspiracy theories that ran among that afterwards the odds, at least in the books of heavyweight histories, are very much against Joshua gaining revenge in an immediate return. Now, I didn't finish reading it because they freaking ask you to subscribe and pay $5. And I'm not going to pay $5 just to keep reading what this man here, Matt Christie, had to say. But I thought it was interesting, the little piece here that I was able to read, that he says it's dangerous for Anthony Joshua to immediately take the rematch. He feels that it's dangerous that Anthony Joshua is immediately taking this rematch because the first fight wasn't a gimme, right? The first fight, it wasn't like Anthony Joshua was dominating Andy Ruiz Jr. for 7 rounds, and at the tail and in the last seconds of the 7 rounds of round 7, Andy Ruiz threw a punch that just caught him off guard and knocked him out cold. Then you could look at that as like a fluke, right? You could be like, oh, Joshua was easily winning the fight. Ruiz got lucky with that punch, and this is boxing and these things happen. But what this writer is basically trying to say is that obviously that wasn't the case. This was a competitive fight. Joshua had his moments. Ruiz had his moments. Ruiz then took control of the fight after he not like it was a competitive fight. The last time Joshua was competitive in that fight with Ruiz was the 3rd round when he dropped Ruiz and he hit him with a 1-2 piece. But the moment he got dropped in that same 3rd round where he got dropped, it was a complete one-sided. So that was the last time I saw Joshua competitive against Ruiz was when he dropped him, right? When he got up and he was all over the place, he just never recovered. And for the next 4, 5, 6, for the next 4 rounds until the fight was stopped, Joshua was just losing. It was just a one-sided fight. And I do agree with these things. I personally, and I've been saying this since they first started talking about this fight, the rematch happening. I always felt that it was not a good idea for Joshua to immediately fight Ruiz in the rematch. I felt he should fight him at some point to get hit to avenge his loss, because obviously I'm pretty sure he wants to avenge his loss. People want to see him, at least his fans, they want to see if he could beat Ruiz. Maybe they feel he could beat Ruiz, right? But I feel that he should have let some time pass, a year pass, and try and improve some of the things he needed to improve in the first fight and some of the mistakes he made in the first fight. And not just rush in there with a guy, because one of the things he said in this interview, in this article that he wrote, was a lot of times when fighters, history repeats itself, when fighters who are in these type of fights where they lose and they immediately get a rematch, a lot of times they end up losing, and this is true. Orlando Salido was supposed to get knocked out against what's his name? Juan Manuel Lopez. He was supposed to get knocked out against him, and he ends up knocking out Juan Manuel Lopez. They immediately had a rematch. 4 months later, and because people thought, oh, that was a fluke. It was a fluke. Juan Manuel Lopez was supposed to destroy Orlando Salido. So this had to be a fluke. Let's do the rematch. Let him knock him out. And what ends up happening, he ends up getting knocked out again against Lopez, right? Manny Pacquiao could never could never, and Manny Pacquiao had like 4 fights with Juan Manuel Marquez. He could never dominate Marquez, right? Every time they fought each other, even the fights that he won, it was always a competitive fight. Marquez was just one of those guys that had Manny Pacquiao's number, right? He just had his number. You see what I'm saying? Shane Mosley, Sugar Shane Mosley, fought Vernon Forrest. Rest in peace, Vernon Forrest. Sugar Shane Mosley was supposed to beat Vernon Forrest. He, at the time, was considered a pound-for-pound fighter. I think he was like the #1 welterweight in the world. He had just beaten Oscar De La Hoya. He was supposed to be like the pound-for-pound best welterweight in the world. This was back in 2001, 2002. He fights Vernon Forrest. He's supposed to beat Vernon Forrest because he's the pound-for-pound best welterweight, right? And nobody's supposed to beat the pound-for-pound best welterweight. Vernon Forrest ends up beating him, right? What happens? Shane Mosley immediately gets a rematch. He immediately goes for the rematch. Oh, he beat me? He wasn't supposed to beat me. I could beat him in the rematch. He gets beat even worse in the rematch, right? So that's what this writer is basically trying to say. When fighters are in these competitive fights, when they immediately go for the rematch, they tend to lose the rematch, right? It wasn't like what's his name? Now, obviously, just because history shows that the fighters tend to, lose the rematch, does not mean that Anthony Joshua is gonna 100% lose in the rematch. He could catch Andy Ruiz in the first round with a crazy punch and knock him out. This is boxing, especially in the heavyweight division where it only takes one punch, right? And you could knock a motherfucker out cold. But I just personally feel that it would have been better and wiser for Joshua's team to let him first, work on the things he needed to work and not just rush in there with Andy Ruiz Jr. Because it's not like the Lennox Lewis fight. People might look at, like when he fought Lennox Lewis. No, like when Lennox Lewis fought, when Lennox Lewis lost twice and he immediately avenged his losses. But these were different. First of all, when he lost the first time against Oliver McCall, he didn't immediately fight Oliver McCall. He waited 3 years to fight him, right? And in those 3 years, obviously, he had improved as a fighter. First of all, he had been trained by Emmanuel Stewart in those 3 years, who obviously improved him as a fighter. When he lost to Hasim Rahman, that was a fight where he wasn't taking it seriously. If you look at him in that fight, he was playing around. He wasn't taking it serious, and it was a competitive fight, right? I think he went into that fight thinking, because the buildup of that fight, Hasim Rahman was talking a lot of trash. So I think the way he was fighting Hasim Rahman, I think he was fighting him that way because he was like, look, I don't even have to take you seriously. I could fight you with one hand. He was like making faces at Hasim Rahman, and usually Lennox Lewis is a guy that was very serious when he fought, but he was like laughing and smiling. I think he was doing that because he was trying to say, I'm so much better than you, Hasim Rahman, that I don't even have to fight seriously to beat you. And then he got knocked the fuck out. But then in the rematch, look at how seriously he was, right? But that wasn't the case with Anthony Joshua. Joshua was taking Ruiz seriously, but this still happened to him, right? So I just think that it would have been smarter for Anthony Joshua and his team to wait longer and not immediately jump in the rematch. Because I think it would have given him a better shot at beating Ruiz. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think of the video. Let me know what you guys think of this article, and I'm out. Thanks for watching, man. Appreciate it.